Hi, I'm Kialessa, and I'll be showing you around my medieval steampunk kingdom. It's not entirely finished, but let's just go through it anyway, and I'll walk you through my thought process behind the design. I actually started this build on a survival server, and everything was centered around that guy over there, the birdhouse, and just kind of evolved around it. That said, the landscaping didn't look exactly the same as it does here. There was another crew over here that was building. It was a group of guys, I think there were about 5 of them, who were building their own sort of medieval fantasy village over here. Obviously, that's not here anymore. This is not the same world, not the same seed. This is something I ported over into a creative world, into a different seed, because the server I had been playing on decided to do a full reset, and I lost absolutely everything in that world that I hadn't saved. But really, I wanted to keep working on this, and so I have. This large, very empty space down here would likely be the market district, and there would be stalls and everything over here, and there would be lower rent housing over there. Having said that, I'm not quite sure what I'd put over here near the pond, but I'd probably figure it out eventually. I'm gonna probably have a wall somewhere along there in the back portion where you see the birch trees. Maybe not quite as fancy as the one up here, but to protect the kingdom back there, and then beyond that will be maybe fields. I probably won't go that far, but I'm imagining. Let's just imagine here. So I don't know how much more I'm going to work on this world, but I do believe I'll probably do some more just because it's so much fun. And really, this is the first time I've ever actually worked on a project of this scale. This was literally a one-off build I was going to use for the start of the server that I was talking about, the reloaded SMP. This is going to be my starter house for that. I designed it, I think, the day before the server launched. And yeah, I just thought it'd be kind of interesting. I had seen a picture of a birdhouse, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna make a birdhouse. And I'm gonna turn it into my starter base. Well, I designed it, and then I didn't build it until like a month and a half later. And it was not actually my starter house. My starter house was my trading hall, which you do not see here, since we're down here. Little pond, we used to have frogs here. Still have some fish. The frogs escaped while I was in my flat world. They went off someplace. I don't know, I never saw them again. And they'll probably be around for any other test builds I do out there, but I've yet to find them again. So yeah, here's one of the little guardhouses. There's no way to get to the top portion right now. I'll probably have a ladder somewhere, or I'll have a little, maybe I'll do this portion over here into a little, like, a little secondary area where they can walk in and go over here. This would be the Mages District, I think, over here. And everything was kind of designed based off of the idea of birdhouses again. We have like these little things, and these are supposed to be like cliffside bird nest. And this is a larger one. And yeah, very similar color scheme throughout everything. I was very into the and using like, I don't have any prismarine over here. I actually made my first prismarine farm this season for that. But a lot of weathered copper and spruce and dark oak, which are my usual go-to colors. And I thought, oh hey, you know what, this all kind of looks very steampunky with all the copper. And so I decided for their form of travel, it would have these like little mech birds. And yeah, they're mostly made out of stairs and carpet and stuff and trapdoors and acacia and things like that. And I had a lot of fun designing them. I actually made 3 different models. I have the sitting guys, the gliding guys, and you can actually sit, and not that one, but this one, the one back there. And you can sit in this guy here. In the minecarts, obviously. They don't actually move, but you know, you can imagine you're zooming around. And then we have the guy who is diving over here. So again, this is all just fun to build, and I actually did build, I think, one of each of these on the server. I didn't build this guy over here. I think I built him in the neighboring kingdom that was over there. Again, there's no neighboring kingdom here, it's just me. And anyway, so I had these guys over here, and I probably put a couple more just kind of flying around the city. I don't think I'd ever design another 4th model, but never say never. And anyway, so let's get on the ground here and go through some more of the close-ups of the build. Personally, I like to over-detail things probably. A lot of people have said that to me before. Oh, hey, Kiel, you actually, like, you put a lot of stuff here. Is it really necessary? And it's just like, it's not lagging out the server. I try to avoid using too many item frames or, hoppers. I avoid using those for decorative purposes. Just because when I do play on an SMP, obviously you don't want to lag everybody out. And yeah, so we have a garden area here. I'll start with this lower portion. We actually have like I never finished this area, obviously. Going down here, it was where the actual portal was in the SMP, where I'd come to this area. It was right here, and then we have like the little pond here. A lot of particles. Use spore blossoms, and anyway, so we head back up those stairs. Sorry, all over the place. And then I was gonna have a storage hall over here, like for my actual storage, and I just never built it out. Like I said, I started this area much later in the season than I was intending. The season actually didn't last very long, which was very unfortunate. I think it lasted only 3 months. So there was no way I was going to be able to finish this, but I obviously didn't know it was only going to last 3 months until the season ended. So anyway, love the server, love the people. Not a problem, but yeah. It's not the greatest when you you have these big builds you want to try for the first time. You're like, oh hey, and you get all psyched about it, and then next thing you know, it's kaput. So anyway, all right. So we have that little small interior space. Again, not super decorated on the inside. Most of my focus was on the outside. I don't think you can go on that side. You're gonna go all the way around. Like I said, I initially designed this to be my starter house. So going to the Nether is fine. However, they had the inn closed for the first few weeks, so had to use a bubble column to get up here if I wanted to get in. But seeing as I built this a month and a half later, I actually had an elytra to get in here, and this was actually the design I had for that. And I'd just fly in from here, and then upstairs. Again, this is not very decorated. Sorry. This is far less decoration than I usually do for my builds, but that's okay. And then obviously little sleeping quarters. I tried to put all the the structures inside the house that would be there to support the roofs and other things like that. So that's my thing. Even if I don't do a full interior, I try to do interior architecture. And so yeah, up here, this would be the upper middle class area. I don't think I'd have any shops here. Maybe like a magic store somewhere up here, but I'm not quite sure. We only have the one house here and the guardhouse over here and the inn so far, apart from the little, I don't even know what this would be. I guess that would be for the postal system. I don't know. I'm not a big Harry Potter fan anymore, but with the owls, maybe that would be just the Wind Rider station, like for transportation. Not very convenient to get up there if you only have the one entrance with the with the bubble column, but I guess you'd be riding a bird in or having your elytra to get in anyway. This portion was part of the original survival area. I had dug this out, didn't really finish prettifying it, and then it went underneath here. I actually dug out the entire area, and I had a underground water source here that would trickle down into the ponds over here, into this pond here, and then that was a small waterfall down to here. And the actual water source was from a reservoir up here, where you see it transitions from spruce trees into oak. All the oak area is actually the original seed from this world that I had imported this build into. So all of this stuff here is like these weird, look at this. There was actually a pond I had dug out up here. But this is even better because when I was looking over here, if I want to continue building this way, this would be the upper district where the richest of the kingdom would live. And then there's this big gully here that could be like a large lake. And this would be if I wanted to build a castle, which is not really my jam, it would be over here to be well protected because you have sheer, well, not quite sheer drop-offs here, but this much more rugged terrain. And they'd be a bit better protected on this side and far away from the rest of the commoners and the basic townspeople, kingdom people. Coming back over here to the few builds we actually do have that we can actually look at. That guy is from another import from the survival world. That was my neighbor's cow, who has since come over to my place and is now a permanent resident. So yeah, we have this little area. I'll start down here. This is gonna be a house. Oh goodness, getting a little crazy with my arms here. Pew. Have some subterranean windows, like a half window. This would be a rental area for whoever lives up there, or they could have guests or, you know, family stay here. So it's not as quite as a nice entrance. It's very tight quarters back here. And then we have obviously the gate to get in. And we have another, like the other little window down here. I didn't put any plants in there, but yeah. So this is a very small interior. Again, not fully decorated. Much smaller than I usually build, but I'm trying to break free of the habit of just doing a one-off build, a singular build that is. And so here we have, like, you know, hopefully something I can replicate into different styles and layouts for the other houses in the area, and then go on to having a slightly bigger home in the rich area of town, so to say. That is so creepy. Hello. Are you stuck? Possibly. So anyway, and they are right next to the guardhouse and the smelly stables. And here you have the actual guardhouse. This would be the informational area as well. So you could have dual purpose guards, like, you know, for security and for an information center. Got the little tiny, you know, interior with a simple table and some armor and weapons, and then their barracks up here. You can shut that. You're not supposed to go beyond there unless you actually are a guard. So I have this guy over here. He is an oak, a live oak I had designed for my trading hall. Nobody ever really came to my trading hall, so I was like, you know what? It's gonna be new to some people if I move it over to my more trafficked area, which was here. And yeah, so I built it a second time over here, and it's so much easier to build in creative that I was like, oh my gosh, placing these leaves is the worst. And it looks like I lost a few leaves, maybe a handful, but anyway. So we got a live oak tree here. We have this dual themed set of guard towers. I was originally trying to have people help me decide. I don't have very many followers on Twitter or Tumblr or anything, but I did a small, like, little poll thing. Which do you prefer? Do you prefer? It was actually made out of sandstone, oak, and birch at the time, so it was less color and less contrast than what it is now. But I also had this one over here, and I was like, which one do you like better? Do you like the light colored one, or do you like this one? And people were like, I like them both together. So yeah, I decided to go ahead and do both together. And really, I don't have a lot of steampunk elements quite yet. It's more just medieval, other than the birds and, like, you know, some little features like this, like the big gears. But yeah, you can go all the way up to the top of the tower. I'll just head up here really quickly. It's a guardhouse, so there's not gonna be a lot of or a guard tower, so there's not gonna be a lot of decoration in it. But you could go, like, you know, I don't do many stories and stuff, but they could actually come up here, again, trying to go for practicality. They could come up here and, you know, scope out the land, and they could also shoot intruders if necessary. So yeah, there we got that. Let's see, and then the other side is a mirror of this, but it's just in a different color. Let's see, yeah, and then of course we have the main thoroughfare to get into this portion of the kingdom, the bridge that is meant for larger items, either parades, coronations, or things like that, where there'd be a large grouping of people, carts to get into the city, horses, and then we have, like, obviously the guards would be out here. We have a lower middle income area over here, a pathway that goes up there to possibly more lower middle income, or just lower income, or even people not considered part of the village, or the kingdom. And then again, I'm not quite sure what I'd put here. And maybe stuff like farriers, I don't know, something that people from the outside would want as well, and then have that, like I said, go down there. Let's see. And then if you go this way, sorry, this path isn't quite done either. If you go down this way, this is for the foot traffic. And the guards can still monitor who goes in and out. But this way you can just keep, like, you know, if you don't want to have any big carts coming in and you still want to have people to be able to go through, or if there's a problem, like, you know, somebody got stuck there, their wagon wheel fell off and it's blocking the way. Again, I don't do a lot of like storytelling or lore or anything like that, but people could still come through to the city, and you know, they can go down here and along the path here, or they could go back up to the top. We'll just go down here. I do highly decorated builds. I know the current I say that now, I do highly decorated builds. I know the current, you know, trend is to do fairly simplistic with a lot of gradients and textures. And while I do some of that, I love putting the small details in, and it's probably too much for a lot of people. Like, you know, people say, oh, it's so cluttered, it's too busy. It's me, really. This is how I like to design. I like to do like small details around the place and try to, you know, keep a consistent theme. And again, this is the first time I've ever done such a large build. So normally it's like, you know, I do the interior of a house and I got all these, like, you know, decorations, these flowers and pots and all these other things like that. And so to see it on such a scale, yeah, it is kind of overwhelming, but I still like it. I only started playing Minecraft around the tail end of 2016. I played for a few months into 2017, and then life struck me down and I stopped playing for almost 4 years. So in that time I had put up a couple of my builds that I had done in creative on Planet Minecraft and a few other places, and I was using Conquest, so I absolutely love the textures. And if you go look at those builds now, they're not as detailed as these, and I was using a different texture pack. So for this kind of stuff I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna use vanilla texture because it looks so different if you use a different texture pack. And while it does look different, here, let me turn off shaders. While it does look different with the shaders off, it's okay because this is still vanilla. It's, I mean, apart from the leaves, those are vanilla tweaks. I use the leaves and I use the ashless campfires. I don't think I have any of those around here. And then for the stained glass, I have, I think it's Windthor, and that's the only different textures I have in the game apart from the, I'll go over here. Apart from the glazed terracotta, which is all 4 parts of the pattern all on one block. And again, I have it to where, like, if you turn this off, it would still match up with how I have the patterns. But yeah, it's fairly simple, and you know, I try to design with enough pattern and color and, you know, details to make a build still be interesting even without shaders, because even I don't mean any disrespect to anybody, but you know, like, this is fairly blah looking over here, but I don't have anything here to jazz it up right now. So yeah, even mediocre builds can look amazing with shaders on. And again, no disrespect to anybody, it's just I usually build without shaders on. That's just how I build. And then it's more like for the walkthroughs and my screenshots, like, you know, my pictures that I show on Instagram and Twitter and Tumblr, that I actually have the shaders on. But I don't typically play like this. Oh, and by the way, you probably saw it pop up in the corner there. I use complementary shaders. I think I'm using the basic defaults for it. So this was actually the only house I was drawing inspiration from something else. This was actually inspired by, I think, Novigrad from The Witcher 3. I think it's Novigrad. I'm not quite sure. It's it's like the tiered city, actually. Speaking of tiers in my place, it was the tiered city, and they have the upper portion where they have, I think, a couple of the houses kind of look like this with the overhang and the pillars. And I know this is a very kind of traditional look for a lot of medieval houses. I really liked it, and I think actually the amount of windows down here and the layout of the actual front area was heavily inspired by one of the actual houses there. Not the interior, because you can't go in half the houses, but anyway, so we've got the kitchen here, you know, lots of windows. I don't use glass at all. I usually use trapdoors, which is probably excessive, and people are probably like, why don't you just use glass? Because I love, like, you know, it looks like tiny little windows, or, you know, just like, you know, the stained glass and leaded glass. And when you don't have
textures on and you're just using glass, it just doesn't have the same kind of feel to it. So again, since I usually play with shaders and textures off, I just put this up here and yeah, let's go out here for a second. This would obviously have to have some sort of safeguarding back here, but yeah. So we got a little balcony back here, some climbing vines and things like that. Let's see, in here, this is the, for the end, this would be obviously the dining area. The chef would work back here. They could come through here. Can also shut these doors. And yeah, got lots of windows everywhere. Structural supports, obviously, as well. And then, let's see, I didn't put anything, yeah, like, again, this is only mildly decorated for me. It was mostly just the structural and the interior decoration, like for the actual walls and things and trims and things like that, and I didn't put a lot of decor. But this would be where the innkeeper would be. These would be keys. They're supposed to be keys. Work with me here. And I'm gonna open the windows here, and then obviously down here would have been the cellar for the end, but it also would have, this is where I had to build up the terrain for the actual build and survival. I had loads of moss with a moss farm. And obviously at Sea Lanterns I had a guardian farm as well, but this is also gonna be, I think, my actual storage space. Should I have actually built over here more before the server, you know, went by the wayside. And and then we got the upstairs where the actual rooms are. Again, only mildly decorated, mostly just like, you know, finials and things like that. More the glazed terracotta. We have the general balcony over here for all the guests to use, and yeah, going out this way so you can see that, and then that's the private balcony for over there. We'll go over there in a second. Let's see, and then we have two rooms on this level. We have the most expensive room over here. I think this is the most decorated room in the entire inn. Yeah, they've got their own fireplace, their own large bed, many windows, and their own private balcony that is blocked off from the main guests with a trellis, with, you know, a trellis and bushes and climbing vines. And then we can go here, and then we have the second most expensive room over here. And I got a Mumbo head up there. Somebody was selling like Hermitcraft and other popular YouTubers heads in the marketplace, or in our shopping district on the actual server, and I still have a couple of them here apparently. So yeah, they have their own little tiny balcony, and they can shut their windows if they don't want to be woken up by the morning sun. So there's this room up here, and then of course everything has vaulted ceilings, so it's amazing and spacious, and you don't feel trapped in. And then of course you can go up the stairs, and this is the less expensive rooms. It'd be the hottest up here, and it'd be the least accommodating for, you know, the wealthy. They wouldn't have to go far to get down to the dining area from this level and other things. So obviously the rooms are gonna be a little bit different up here, significantly smaller, still high ceilings in this one. They still have their own private fireplace, a window, and they've also got ventilation up there because a lot of homes would have, like, you know, venting, so you could have like equalized pressure, and then you could get all the hot air escaping that way. In this room, obviously no fireplace. They cheer the warmth with this room though, and so they still have their own window. And then this would be the least expensive room in the inn. Very low ceilings compared to the others, and one single window and 2 twin beds. So yeah, again, not highly decorated, but this one I had actually built on the survival server. Let me see what other ones. Let's go out this way. So I built this on the survival server. I had built the tree. I hadn't built any of the wall around here on the survival server. These two weren't there. That one was. I had flattened out this entire terrain though, so this was like that. And these two guys were on the server. The bridge was on the server. Let's see. I don't think I had the pond and everything. That was what I did after. But yeah, so this is my build. Again, this is essentially just a pet project now, but it's to see if I can actually do an entire kingdom or a town or something to that effect, because again, I usually do small one-off builds and it's not quite the same to do something and try to keep it cohesive in your theme and your design.
What would a low-income house look like versus a middle income versus high income versus the elite class? And then you have the businesses like the market stalls and then the farms and everything else that goes along with a town and a kingdom.
It's just something fun. I've really never done anything like this before. And really, if you've made it this far in the video, I greatly appreciate you watching. I hope you come back in the future should I actually have other videos. So thanks again for stopping by, and hopefully I'll see you soon.